लोग
लोग आ चुके हैं, ठीक है।
this
Let me go live on Facebook.
yes Faisal, can you check Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, and on behalf of Mumkin, I welcome all of you to this another episode of MUMKIN Majlis. Today our topic is that how to stay focused and how to manage your stress, right? So anyway, I would like you to take the lead in starting. We have some few questions that people posted on our Facebook page. So I think we can start with those questions right away.
Yeah, sure, please.
Let me pull out the questions. Just give me a minute. Okay, so somebody asked, what is the meaning of stress? Like, what stress exactly is?
Okay. So the technical definition of stress is force per unit area, which is a purely technical definition. But let's come back to.
Faisal, would you like to answer this question?
For me, stress is when there is a lot of demand or a lot of expectations from me, and I stop being able to fulfill those expectations and demands. So the energy is less and the demands are more. So the difference is starts to create stress in my life, because I will start losing focus. I will not be able to complete my task. I will start missing the deadlines. So all these things start adding up into my life, and they have a physiological and psychological both kinds of effect. And this is when we start feeling into a situation that we call stress. But I think people can have different definition for the stress. This is my definition. This is how I define stress. If anyone else like to share, I think they can open their mic and they can share their idea about stress as well.
So can I share something over here?
Yeah.
All right. So as I mentioned earlier, stress is primarily or long before this was a technical term, stress, and then it became an everyday term over a period of years. So let's forget about the technical part. Let's come back to the part which is usually meant by people, or how this is how usually people understand by the word stress. So what happens when stress happens, or when stress occurs? And stress is something that we cannot avoid. So when stress occurs, body reacts in certain situations. And when body reacts, as Faisal mentioned, when body reacts, it releases some hormones and some fluids, and because of that, what happens is that body stays in a particular state for some amount of time, or for a longer amount of time. And then when the stress reduces, the body comes back to its original position. So under a stressful situation, body behaves differently, and under normal conditions, body behaves differently. So we need to understand what are the factors which causes the stress, and which ultimately lets body, or forces body, to behave in a certain manner. Right? So this is what stress is all about. Now, so you need to understand this fact that imagine this is you. So there are certain factors over here from outside inside, which are called stressors, or which are called stress factors. So they affect you, or they hit you from this side. So this is you and your body. And ultimately what happens that when a stress affects your body, your behavior, or your habits, or the way you manifest, whatever, there are some certain outputs or outcomes which become different under a stressful situation. So this is how I understand stress. So maybe someone else can add his or her perspective.
By the way, stress is not always bad. It is a response that has been built by Allah Almighty to help us cope with different situations, especially the crisis situations. So whenever we are in stress, we have two particular hormones. They get very high. One is cortisol, the other is adrenaline, and that helps you make quick decisions, what we call flight and fight response. which was very important for your survival. Okay, so it's like whenever you see a dangerous animal coming to you, okay, in the olden times, uh, what your body will do is it will start pumping more cortisol in your body. So what will happen when the cortisol is pumped in your body? So your digestion will slow down. Okay, the energy is transferred from to the major muscles like your legs and your arms, and you go into the fight or flight response, in which you will decide either you will take on the animal that is coming towards you, or you will run away from the situation. Okay, so the cortisol helps you run as fast as you can. So just imagine your normal speed of running, but you see a lion coming towards you. Definitely, you will be running more fast. You will be running faster than your usual speed, and that all happens because of the stress and the cortisol. So this is not something which is bad, but the negative effect of stress starts when it remains when these hormones remains high in your body for a longer period of time. Okay, so you cannot be in a fight or flight response mode for, let's say, a elongated period of time, because you cannot remain your digestion to be slow. You don't want your heart to be pumping faster. You don't want your breathing to be faster than as usual, because it will start having negative effect on your body. So when we hold on to stress for a longer period of time and we don't use it for our own good, this is where the problem starts. And this is where the stress has usually been termed as a negative impact on someone's life.
Okay. Thank you, Faisal, for sharing this. So I would like to relate this old age situation where we used to human beings used to live in caves, and they used to hunt out for animals and all that. Now let's come back to relating this to come back to our original or current situation. Now we don't hunt for animals anymore, but the human body is same as before, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created. But instead of animals, now we have different stress factors. So rather than a lion chasing you or something else, now you have your bosses, your spouses, environmental factors like traffic, the weather conditions, the excessive workload. Now imagine this situation. Imagine the situation. People have started talking about stress in the last, let's say, 15, 20, or maybe 30, 40 years. But before that, people did not even know about this. Why? Because the life was simple. People used to live together, let's say in villages, cities, and there was no internet, there was no multimedia, there was no WhatsApp, and so on and so forth. So the overload of information was less, and because of that, you were not supposed, or you were not expected to take care of so many different things. So coming back to the point, now the stressors are different. The body stays the same. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created. Stresses are more than before. So that's why you don't see your peers or the grandparents is talking about stress and so on and so forth. But we have stress. Another reason for this high levels of stress is unrealistic expectations. I will talk about more, but I would like to have some questions, or if someone else wants to talk about this. You're free to open your mic and speak up, and then we'll continue.
So you are saying that life has become more overwhelming, and we have been more demanding. So we have more expectations and less time and energy to fulfill those expectations. So we have expectations from external factors and from internal factors also. So we are setting up the bar too high for ourselves as well, right?
And I'll add something here. Stress is temporary for short term as well, and it's for long term as well. So as Faisal Bhai said, by something that happens and it happened for a longer term, that becomes a stress and we cannot take it. But sometimes the stress happens like, I will just give you my example. I fell down last week. It was such a stressful condition for me. And it was a time like I had to cope up with that stress. Like, what should I do? Should I be, start jumping into a panic situation, or should I be doing something? So I wanted to control myself. So that was also a stress. And then, exams are also a stress. So at that time, when you are totally in a condition where you're not able to control yourself, at that time, how can you keep yourself calm down? That's a big question right here. So you guys are all like discussing stress. I jumped on to the next step, I guess, like how to control yourself in those stressful situations. So that's a stress that was something immediately that happened. And then there is a stress that is always up, like on us, like as mothers. Parenting is a stress. As a wife, like being taking care of the household is a stress. So everything is a stress there. So then at this time, how can we keep ourselves calm? So I think like that will be the question everyone is asking here. Oh, or perhaps I'm jumping to the next step, perhaps.
Nearby, you are
Yeah.
mute.
Yeah. I just realized that I'm muted. Yeah, I would like to tell you something. As Father suggested a few minutes before, that stress is not always negative or always bad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created this system for some reason. Now imagine, and this is called positive stress. Imagine you have exams to do, and now you need to prepare for the exams. So we have something called what do you call uninterested zone, or it's called eustress. So where we are not interested to work on this, but as we approach closer towards the exam, the stress level starts rising higher. So then we come into a zone where the stress level is high enough to make us work. Unless that stress level is reached, we don't move. And then what happens is that this stress level is controlled or is up to a manageable level. Then when the exams become very closer, or any deadline approaches very closer, stress level even becomes higher. So then you feel like working more on that, and you're putting your efforts, and so on and so forth. So this is how the stress works or makes your body work. So I hope this is clear. And if anyone would like to add anything over here, we can take any questions, and then we'll go out, inshallah. So someone, I can read something in the chat. Sarah says, before we have a stress of our studies, and now we have the stress of our children's studies and exams. Of course, yes. And these stress factors will continue to grow more and more in life. This is something that you cannot avoid in at all. So what you can do, you cannot avoid the stress. What you can do is manage your stress. So how you manage your stress, we'll come to that shortly. But let's talk a little bit about the stress factors, and we do not realize what are the factors other than the one that we already talked about, which cause stress in our lives.
Mhm.
So one of the things is unrealistic expectations from people. For instance, my children will do this for me, or let's say my manager will do this for me, or let's say my wife will do this for me, or my neighbor will do this, and whatnot. So it is unrealistic expectations or higher expectations. So what do? Instead of setting higher expectations from others, we set positive expectations from other people. Yes, we and better we expect better things from them, not high but better things, or positive expectation. There's a lot of difference between these two. So what you do in positive expectation, that you continue to stay positive more than the other person. You're working on yourself to stay positive, and that helps a big deal to control your stress.
Nearby,
So
sometimes these unrealistic stressors are self-made. So as everyone is
yeah.
talking about a study, so whenever you start an semester, you have a whole 4 months period to study for the exam and make yourself well aware of the course material, assignments, and everything. But what we do is we wait for the very last moment to start studying and preparing for the exam. So these kind of stressors are self-made. These are not these were not the actual expectations from the beginning. But since we were in a what you call it as the bored state for and procrastination for like 3 months, and we waited for the last 2 weeks to start studying. So we have built up that stress for ourselves. So one of the things we need to do is we need to identify what are the stresses which are actually stressors that you cannot control, and identify those ones which you can control and manage by yourself from the beginning, so that they don't build up into big bombs in the end. So not everything is unrealistic, by the way.
Thank you for adding this. Another another thing that causes stress is multitasking. So what do we do? Is that we tend to do too many things together. Okay. So when do we do multitasking? Human mind, as created by Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, and as we understand this, is able to focus on one thing. So what do? We make it focus on multiple things. So mind starts doing time slicing. So what does it do? Task one, let's say few seconds, then task two, few seconds, then come back to one and two, and so on and so forth. So multitasking, we talked about this a few in one of the few sessions before. So what happens in case of multitasking? The mind becomes concerned and worried, and because it's moving back and forth between one thing and the other, and then come back to the one previous thing, and so on and so forth. So multitasking makes our mind works faster and in between too many things. So what happens? This results in losing focus. So when we start losing focus of things, the life starts to appear overwhelming. When the life becomes overwhelming, it makes us lose more and more focus. So it's a vicious cycle. We lose focus, then life becomes overwhelming. Then when overwhelming, we lose more focus, and so on and so forth. So what do we do? How do we take charge of it? How do you take charge? First thing to that helps you take charge is to ooze out your mind somewhere, maybe a paper or anything or whatever. This is how you start controlling your stress, or one of the factors or ways to control your stress. So start writing out your thoughts. So and this is what I have observed in my life, that this helps you a great deal. When you start writing things, it develops clarity in your head. Then what you do is take up one thing and finish. I have experienced in my life that whenever I try to do too many things in my life, I fail miserably. So what do I do then? Then take one, focus, finish. Take second, focus, finish. And this is how it works, at least for me.
I think
So
before going to the
yeah,
focus, you need to define your priorities right. You need to identify what is important and what is not important, because from outside and superficially, everything looks important.
yeah. So in my opinion, Fazil, more than anything else, the
Mhm.
stress is caused by the relationship, and
Uh-huh.
relationship between the spouses, relationship between parents and children, relationship between peers, the managers and their team, and so on and so forth. So let me tell you a small story over here. So I happen to coach a person, an IT developer, software developer. The guy says he came and he says that I would like to change my team, and I would like you to help me find a different team for me, and because I'm sick of my team. The team is so much negative that it has started to cause me stress, and I feel like shivering or something. My blood pressure is getting higher, and so on and so forth. Okay, let's calm down first. Let's talk in detail, and we started meeting every week. So the first thing that the guy started is working on himself by exercising. So the coming back to the point, what I want to tell you, I don't want to jump to the solutions first. What I want to tell you, that his relationship with his peers was causing the stress because he was not understanding himself and the other people. So the more you understand yourself, self awareness is a big deal stress reliever. When more you understand yourself and more you understand the people around you, how do they behave and why do they behave like this, this helps you manage your stress level to a very good level, manageable level, I would rather say. So coming back to the point, one of the more major stressors or causes of the stress is relationship. So we talked about the corporate context, the IT guy. Let's talk about the home context or the personal life. So mostly, if you see men, what makes them stressed, and women, what they make them stressed. So let's talk about the men. So what is the basic complaint of men against their spouses? That whatever I do, She never stays happy. She never becomes happy, and she always complains. This is a generic complaint of men against or about their spouses. And what about their spouse's side? That this guy never listens to me. Whatever I do, I've been staying with him for so many years, and he never listens to me.
He
So
never
he was
praises me.
okay. He never praises me. Yes.
Yeah.
So this happens. Why this happens? Because men and women, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has created them differently. The way they are structured, the way they think, the way they express their emotions, the way they really manage or release their stress, is entirely different. So if we start developing better understanding towards each other, especially the spouses or the family members, it helps relieve or it helps manage the stress to a great deal. So we can talk more about this if you have any comments or anyone
I
would like
think
to
the
say
most
anything here.
common complaint from both side is that the other one doesn't understand me,
Yeah.
and that's the cause, because we actually don't understand the other gender. We think of the other gender as we don't think that there is a difference between the gender in how we cope with the stress, how we process the information, how we come to the conclusions. So although it's been scientifically proven that men are more logical and mathematical and rational, whereas women process information emotionally first, and then they go into the logical and rational part for it. So
Yeah.
this is a key difference between how the gender process the information. And since we
Men are
believe
more.
that the other
Yeah.
person is processing the information in the same way, and he has the same perception as me for about this situation, event, or a person, so we develop expectations, and those expectations were not fulfilled because other person is thinking from another perspective, another point of view. And then we start with a statement that you never understand me, and then it develops into a bigger, quarrel or fight, I will say.
So I have an interesting. Vaishnavi, if you're saying something, please go ahead, complete the sentence, and then I have an interesting story to share here.
No, I was just wanted to add here. Women only think with their emotions, so they have emotions their priority.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah. So
All
men do
right.
not do that. Yeah, men are more calculative.
Mm-hmm. Men, most of the men, and again I would say, as science has revealed and as we have understood the human mind how it works up to the best of our understanding, men are more logic oriented and they work from the left side of their brain. Women are more emotion oriented and and creative, and they are right brain oriented. So it doesn't mean that men are always left side and women are always right side, but we are talking about a dominant part over here.
It's not an
So
on
coming
and
back
off
to,
switch.
yeah,
It's more of a lever. So for men, it's towards the logical side. For women, it
yeah.
is towards the emotional side. But it can be different but it's different setting for each person. So what we are talking about is the average.
That's correct. Thank you for adding this. So what happens is that when women complain, and it's very important, I would like you to note this, that when women complain, it is not that they are complaining, they're making a request, that they are feeling uncomfortable about something. Now, what is men's attitude? Men try to fix. They have a Mr. Fix attitude. So they would jump right with their solution and they will try to fix up everything. But this is not what women want. First thing women want, and I have learned this over years and years with a very hard earned experience of like 27 years of married life, alhamdulillah. So what women want, first and foremost thing is the acknowledgement, which men fail miserably to do most of the time. They don't acknowledge the feelings of the women, and because of this, women feel mostly unheard and not never listened to. So when you acknowledge the feeling, this is the first step that you have done. And then second step is to fix the things, or and prioritize and so on and so forth, and be clear in your expectations. So this is how you can manage. Now coming back to the point, what is happening over here is that men fail to understand what the women want. Similarly, on women's part, they also fail to understand what their men want. So, for instance, I happened to coach a couple sometimes back. a couple of years back. So this lady said that when my husband is upset, he becomes quiet, and then he does not speak to me, and I am puzzled as to what wrong I have done. So he would not speak to me for 2 3 days or sometimes several days, and he would just come and watch TV and just do nothing. So for this woman, her husband doing nothing was ununderstandable, but this is very common for men. Men has a no thinking area in their head, means doing nothing. Men are, it is possible for men that they are just sitting and they are not thinking about anyone, but for women it is not possible. So when they are sitting or when they are alone, their mind is like the, what do you call, a ball of wool ball. So it's everything is interconnected. So their mind is continuously running and in a surveillance mode and whatnot. They're thinking about children, the husband, the food, or something which is on the oven and whatnot. So coming back to the point, this is another difference that they don't understand. So what happens under stressful situation? Men go to their cave. When they go to their cave, they take some time, maybe sometime 2 days, sometimes 3 days, maybe less, maybe let more. What happens to women? When women are under stressful situation, and I'll come to the story then, they want to talk. So when they talk, and when they talk, the husbands think they are complaining. When the husbands think they're complaining, they take it on themselves. They take it directly, as if she is not expressing her emotions. She is complaining about some of my attitude. So what happened is in this couple that I happened to engage, it was a whole family sometimes back, when the women, the mother of the family, she had 4 children to take care of, and the boys were very naughty, and this lady used to get tired. So when the husband would arrive from work, she would open, as per the husband, a Pandora box of complaints. So the husband thought that all these complaints are related to him. So what he started doing, I'm not sure if I related this story earlier or not. So he started washing his dishes by himself and cooking his own food, and then told his wife that, see, this is how I am assisting you, or I'm facilitating you. The wife said, this is, I never asked you to cook your own food. This is not I wanted. So in a coaching session, the wife said very clearly that I want my husband to acknowledge that I am in a mess of children. So just acknowledgement is fine. So coming back to the point, when women are under a stressful situation, they want to express their emotions out by speaking to other person, speaking to people. In some situations, a husband is the only guy that she can speak to. So when husband understands that his wife is speaking to her, I mean, after he has returned from his all day's work, that his wife is speaking to him because she wants to release or ooze out her stress, his perception about his wife changes dramatically, or 180-degree shift. So rather than looking at his wife as a box of complaints, what he thinks that his wife is also a human being, and she has been staying with the children all day long, and now she wants to release her stress. So when she is speaking to me, she is releasing her stress. The moment men realize this, their eyes, the eye expressions changes, the words changes, the action changes, the posture changes, the feeling, the vibes that go to the spouses, or the lady of the house changes. Things start becoming different.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to share this example.
So,
So
so the
please go
next
ahead.
step after acknowledging is going towards the appreciation. So whenever wives are complaining about that their overwhelming life, you should not only acknowledge that, but you should appreciate that as well. That uh, a sentence is something like, how do you deal with all this stuff, and how you are able to do this? You are a superwoman, or something like that. Will definitely add some good hormones and will help the lady to manage his stress, I think.
Yeah, a little praise would help a lot. And yeah, that's very much needed from the husband.
Okay.
Yeah, a little appreciation.
So Naifai, we have been talking about different kind of stressors and how the stress has been processed and coped by different genders differently. So let's talk about some solutions. So how we can make
Okay. So before jumping to the
things
solution,
work.
I
Yeah.
want to tell you one more story here.
Okay.
So one story is, and this this is story, I'm merging corporate story with a home context. So you'll find it
Mm-hmm.
interesting, inshallah. So I was speaking to a group of executive managers sometimes back, and this was about managing the expectations for each other. So I asked the people. Actually, I wanted to make them understand that they need to speak out. They need to ask the other person what the other person expects of this guy. So in order to make this point make them understand this point, so I asked them a question. So I asked them the question that, guys, imagine I go to my home every day returning from the work, and on my way back I pick up a red rose flower on my way back, and I present this to my wife, and my wife I just keeps it over there, and that's it. So at the end of the month, when I have let's say every week I have been taking red roses to my home, and after a couple of months, I think that I have done a great job by giving a red beautiful rose to my wife every day, but let's say every other day, whatever. So in my opinion, I have done a great job. So, but when something a difference occurs between me and my wife, I expect that my wife would understand me or give me some discount because of I have been giving her red roses, but she does not. So then I ask these managers, imagine, uh, I ask my wife that I tell them I give you red roses, but you don't take care of me, and my wife said that you don't do what I want you to do. So I ask these managers, what do you think I should be doing in order to understand my wife's expectations? Now they all started looking around to each other, these managers, and they say, the first thing you should do, Nair, that you should go and ask your wife what does she want. So, okay, fairly simple process. Now, now then I ask them back, how many of you, dear managers, how many of you have ever asked each other, what do you expect out of me? They all started looking at each other. They never ever asked each other, the other person, that what do you expect out of me? Now let's forget about this manager's context. Let's come back to our home context. How many of us as husbands, or how many of us as, let's say, spouses or wives, have ever asked their husband or wife that what do you expect of me, or how can I become a better husband, how can I become a better wife, and so on and so forth. This will help us understand the expectations of the other person so that we can manage the expectations better. So you understand the point. So this is very important that we ask people, and then we are able to manage the expectations better. Now we can. I hope this point was clear,
So Nayyar,
and we can
I
move
have
on.
I have a question that I got on the
Please.
Facebook, that how can we stay calm with our family? Let's say they don't understand all this stuff that you have been telling us for the last 30 minutes. So how
Mhm.
can you still stay calm when the stressors are bombarded towards you?
Okay. So it is very. Thank you very much for asking this question, and this was our next subject, in fact.
Mhm.
So, guys, please try to do understand and try to understand this thing, that body under stressful conditions, it goes back to its default response. So, what's the default response? Default response is the one that you have programmed your body to perform or to do in case of any stressful situation. For instance, that's why you mentioned flight or fight response. So there's another response called fright.
Freeze.
So
Yeah.
in yeah, so either you run, or you fight, or you just faint away. So
Mhm.
these are three possible responses. These are the three default responses. Whichever comes first, probably you will do the same. So
Mhm.
similarly, we need to prepare our body to behave in a specific way under stressful conditions. Let's say if you want your cortisol or your adrenaline to be managed for or regulated, you need to do certain things beforehand. For instance, regular exercise helps you manage your stress. So people who do regular exercise, they have a better ability to manage their stress. So what happens when the body is weak? Exercising does not mean that you are always reducing your weight. No, exercising strengthens your body. It helps you, and of course, when you strengthen your body, you are and our mind is part of our body, so that means you are strengthening your mind as well. So exercise helps you a great deal to manage your stress. So what you're doing is that when you do exercise under normal conditions, you are preparing your body to respond under stressful situations. You are strengthening your body. Similarly, spending time with yourself, arranging your things, decluttering your mind by writing your thoughts out on paper, or or arranging things, prioritizing things, organizing yourself. These are again things which help you not move or not slip into a stressful situation. So these are a couple of things, and we have more. For instance, managing your sleep well. People, I was speaking to someone lately, maybe on Thursday, just 2 days before. The guy sleeps by 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. sometimes. Then he wakes up for Fajr again, and then he sleeps till 9:30 or something. Now, what we are doing here? If you're being up or waking up till late night, you are forcing your body to perform against the natural biological clock that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created. So what you're doing, natural clock is biological clock is moving in this direction, and you're pushing your body by having a cup of coffee or by doing something different in this direction. It's just like as Suleiman Bhai in Timelanders explained once, that imagine you have got a wonderful Honda Civic automatic and GLI or whatever you may call that, a beautiful car you have. Now what you do is that you put into your gear drive and you start driving. The car starts moving, and then what you do, pull the handbrake. So the rear wheels are locked. So, and then you push the accelerator further. So the front wheels continue to pull the car and the rear wheels are locked by the handbrake. And then you push more. The car tries to move forward, but the real wheels are creating a lot of noise, they're screeching and all that. Guys, this is what you do when you wake up late night and you have another cup of coffee to keep awake, so that maybe you can build more hours in your day. So this is how we create our we put our body into make it prone to a stressful situation or to fall under um, um, uh, what do you call, make it open, that is stress, come and attack me. This is what we do. So I hope this is clear. Another point that I would like to please go ahead, Fatila, you were saying something.
Yeah, I wanted to say that another, you have explained it very well, that how you can biologically tackle your stress through having a good night, good sleep, and good workout every day. I think psychologically you can handle that stress by remaining optimistic into the situation, because you should have a firm belief that Allah Almighty will never test you beyond your limits. So whatever is happening to you, whatever stressors are coming to you, you have been given all the power from Allah Almighty to deal with those kind of stresses. So remaining optimistic will definitely help you cope with the stressful situations. Another thing you can do is you should have flexible expectations from others. Okay, so if others like just I said in the beginning, that if others don't understand us and they don't fulfill our expectations, then we should be able to understand that we cannot control everyone else in the world. So, okay, so we have to remain flexible. We need to give them time. We need to give them proper feedback, the feedback that contains actual facts and the behavior that we want them to improve. So what we call it feed forward in our case, so that how they can improve their actions in the future. So these are the two things that I want to emphasize, that you can help, because we have reached into the last part of the session. So quickly, if anyone else want to add something.
I would like to add one more thing, or Fatila, whatever you said on top of
Mhm.
this. We need to learn to forego things. We need to learn to ignore things. Sometimes things don't move the way we want them to move. So what do? Rather than creating a stress for ourselves, stay cool.
Let it go.
Yeah, let it go. Yes,
Let it go.
learn to think, let
Yeah.
things go.
Yeah.
So there's a question on the chat from Soheb Bhai. There's a question. Oh, it's only a comment. Okay, I think there's more of a
So
comment. The
there are
question
comments.
is from Tamana.
Okay.
Okay.
Tamana Ihsan has a question. She says, when making tawbah from sins, one can feel overwhelmed with stress when realizing the amount of sins and possibility of hell as a consequence of one's actions. Yes, how do you manage the overwhelming stress of sins committed even at a time of seeking forgiveness? All right, very interesting question, and probably a deeper question.
Mm,
So I would rather say that if this is the situation, yes, and it's a matter of between and you and Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, and it's a closer connection to between you and Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. What I understand is that we as Muslims, we at any point in time, we should not be hopeless or losing hopes from Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, and this is from losing hopes of being forgiven. So at any point in time, we are connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we ask for forgiveness. And at the same time, we stay positive. We, as I remember, Umar bin Khattab used to say that that I mean, he stayed between being positive, khawf wa tama, and as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says in Quran as well, between khawf and tama means between what do you call, between the fear and hope, right?
mm,
Between fear and hope. Thank you for adding. So this is how Allah has defined the characteristics of women. You will find this in Surah Sajda, this ayat, khawfan wa tama'an. May
mm.
Allah help us stay as Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has advised us to stay. So yes, this is you're fearful of your sins. At the same time, you don't lose the hopes. At the same time.
I think this fearfulness is itself a blessing because it will take you closer to your creator, and you start believing that there is still hope, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will definitely forgive me for my sins. Because those who does not fear about their sins, their hearts are locked actually.
Hmm. So, as Suhaib Bhai also mentioned here, losing hope is in forgiveness is another sin. So, stop doing this sin. All right. So, I would like to add over here that when you let's suppose when I make a sin and when I go to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala and I ask for forgiveness, that means that there is a promise from me that I'm not going to do this sin anymore. Period.
Mhm.
So, this is a stop, and and I have submitted to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, and what I'm doing is that promising not to do this anymore, and having hopes for being forgiven, and repenting on whatever I have done. So if you repent with sincere heart, inshallah, you'll come out clean, inshallah.
So you have to believe in the qualities of Allah Almighty, that He is a Rahman, He is a Rahim.
Okay. So there's another question over here by Hisham. Hisham says, I agree that learning to let go helps a lot in many stressful situations. What are the steps or tips to do to learn to let go and move on? Okay, and I can answer this. I would like someone else to take care
Mhm.
to address this.
One of the things that I would like to mention here before we close is that mindfulness goes a long way in helping you with the stress. So being mindful means focusing and being attentive to the things that are important to you at that moment, at that point in time. So remaining mindful, decluttering your mind of distractions, and just trying not to take control of everything, every factor will definitely help you in coping up with the stress. So I think you can find multiple mindfulness exercises which helps you declutter yourself. So whenever you are taking some task which is important, which is critical, what normally successful people do is they do mindfulness exercise. They declutter themselves before they go into uh, that situation. And definitely another thing that I would like to recommend is that you can work with a coach, with a life coach, and life coach definitely will help you in getting clarity about your situation in particular, because whatever we are talking about here is in very in generic terms and for average people, but everyone is a different. Allah has created everyone differently, and we have different mindsets. So getting go or working along with a coach will definitely help you tweak the strategies to your personal needs, and you will be able to find clarity, and you can come up with a plan, and you definitely will remain accountable when you work with a coach, and that uh, helps you in dealing with the stressful situations and more demanding situations in life.
I would like to add over here something which you may find interesting and important.
Mhm.
When we, when I'm talking about this comment, letting things go. So it depends on how you forgive others and how forgive how much forgiveness. No, give me a word. Mean how much do you forgive yourself? Sometimes people don't forgive themselves, and sometimes these same people they don't forgive others easier. So forgiveness is something that helps you learn to let things go. So first of all, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help to let you learn this, how to let go of things. And the other thing is that continuously remind yourself. So coming back to the point again, whatever that you do in normal conditions help you repeat the same pattern under a stressful situation. So when things happen, let things go. When how do you do that? Program your mind beforehand, means by doing something different, so that you learn to let things go. So that when things happen, you let them go.
And looking at the positive aspects of a situation will definitely help you. Like seeing the glass half full will always keep you optimistic. I think there's a question that how we can remain optimistic.
First of all, let me add to Hisham's question a bit.
Mhm.
Please.
One of the things when it comes to letting go of situations or during the relationship with other people, whether it be at home or workplace or anywhere else, one of the things that helps a lot is to stop assuming. What happens is we start assuming things and stop engaging into dialogues. And that's where we get into a situation where we find it difficult to let go. So stop assuming, ask questions to get clarity, and then forgive.
I think this is
Okay.
an excellent suggestion. With this, I think we can conclude this session. Nirva, if you have to say a few last words.
I think we are done. There's just a question here from Rafia Habib. She says that sometimes we know and believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with me, but our heart and mind are not in total belief. So how we can make ourselves optimistic? I suggest that you pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah, this is the problem. Please help me with this. And then connect, and inshallah this will start getting better. And as we mentioned earlier, do few things, which is like exercising, taking care of your sleep, and writing things down so that you declutter your mind, to release this stress. And one more thing I would like to add, which is by a subject by itself altogether, which is your ability to say no to other people, not to everyone, but whoever is creating excessive work in your life. Your what you do is that you say no to the other person, no to the other person, so that you reduce the amount of work you have, and you manage your stress well. I think
Uh,
with this we can
Yeah,
close.
we can
Inshallah.
close, and I will suggest those people who have put in questions in the chat that they can fill up a self-discovery form which is available on our website, and they can get a free one-to-one session with one of our coaches, and this will definitely help them uncover more about their beliefs and their ability to cope with the stress, and they can come up with a special plan for themselves. I think it will be very helpful for them.
Self-awareness is something very important that most of the
Yeah.
people are not aware of. That how do they behave, how do they think, how do they relieve their stress, and so on and so forth. So as you mentioned, working with coaches will help you a great deal, creating awareness about yourself.
So with
So
this,
see
we
you
will
guys
end
next
the
week.
session. Inshallah, we'll see you
Allah,
next week. Inshallah, if you want to
next week.
leave your comments, you can leave your comments on Facebook, and you can let us know about any particular topic that you would like us to take it up in our next session. And inshallah, we'll meet again next Saturday at 1 p.m. Saudi time, 3 p.m. Pakistan time. Till then,
جزاك الله
Allah
خير.
Hafiz.
سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد ان لا اله الا انت نستغفرك ونتوب اليك. السلام عليكم ورحمه الله وبركاته.